Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 737. If you are writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing your book but you need some help getting it done, you are in the right place. Good morning. Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., like that stuff we write with. Each day, I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 19 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that three things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they can turn a quote-unquote non-author into a published one. Those three things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. Grit is that extra something that separates the most successful people from the rest. It's the passion, perseverance, and stamina that we must channel in order to stick with our dreams until they become a reality. Travis Bradberry. And once again, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Let's have a gritty episode. Today's episode is called Grit in a Game Plan. And, coming up with a book idea is easy, as is talking about it and telling others, relatively, for the most part, those things. And so it's pretty easy to talk about your book and tell others, including yourself, that you're, quote unquote, going to write a book. That's no sweat, comparatively speaking. Starting the work on your book is not just as easy, but still it's not incredibly hard. So far, we're in the book writing safe zone, in my little analogy here, the space where the dreamers safely reside, often for years, coming up with the book idea and then talking about it and then, kind of starting on it, even like little baby steps. This is the dream state where writing a book is merely possible. To move out of this somewhat ethereal, abstract state requires a spark. It might be the spark of obligation or urgency, like a publisher deadline, a speaking engagement where you've promised to have books for sale, or some other such situation where writing and finishing writing your book is required, not optional. But in the absence of such an outside spark of obligation, how can you leave that book dream zone and enter the book reality zone and get your book done? Well, there's today's episode with grit and a game plan. That's right. It takes a combination of mindset and productivity strategies, two of my three pillars here on the show, to jolt yourself out of someday, I put someday in quotes, and declare that you'll start writing your book today, and then you'll do whatever it takes to get it done. So here are some of my go-to grit and game plan strategies that you can use to spark that jolt. So for grit, number one of my favorite words here on the show, why? Because it works. That's why I keep talking about it. Connect deeply with your why for writing your book. The deeper you delve into why you need to write your book, why you must write it, the more emotion and energy you'll draw from within that why, the grittier you will be in the attack of the process, and the more likely you'll be to stay on course and get the job done. There's that phrase again, no matter what. Number two under grit, eliminate excuses. Write down all your reasons for not writing your book and look at what you've written as objectively as possible. Now pretend you're a lawyer and kind of cross-examine each one. How can you turn these obstacles into opportunities to be gritty, to really dig deep and fight through them? It also really helps. I like to write down kind of future obstacles ahead of time, like whether you start an exercise or a new health plan or, something like this, writing a book. If you can it's almost just like diffusing the obstacles before you get to them. If you can kind of figure out all the reasons that you might possibly quit in the future beforehand, look at all the power that you've just given yourself. And number three, energy awareness. Know your brain and energy levels. Understand those energy levels. It's important to have the mental and physical self-awareness to know when to fight and when to rest. You cannot be in a constant state of go in your book writing. Depending on your energy levels and mental state, you will have development days, writing days, and editing days. Know how and at which times of day your brain is most conducive to which type of work and schedule accordingly. Exercising grit toward the writing of your book also means exercising self-awareness of how you work best. So those are my three grit strategies. Here are the three game plan strategies. A writing habit. Hey, shocking, right? Do you have a writing routine? I recommend having at least one scheduled block of writing time every week and a writing process where you're going to write, a commitment to go completely offline during that time, unplug, Turn off the little bleaky things, bleepy. I tried to do bleepy and blinky at the same time to indicate notifications, and that's what happened. So you need to do all this so your brain can focus on creating something from nothing. And make sure you set goals for each writing session, even intentions. If you don't have a specific goal for a writing session, maybe just an intention. A preset writing habit opens up a dedicated space in your otherwise crazy life. In my experience, this is by far the most important piece of your book writing game plan, having a scheduled writing habit. Number 2, writing plan. Are you clear on why you're writing your book, who it's for, your promise to them, how your book will execute on that promise? Do you have a clearly defined vision and architecture for your book? It doesn't have to be extensive, but for first-time authors especially, having a plan, having a writing plan, significantly increases the success rate for a completed book. I have found this anecdotally through my work over 20 years, so when I say significantly increases, you don't think it's based on a scientific journal study, but I have seen it with my clients, with first-time authors, even second, third, fourth-time authors. When you have a specific writing plan, it massively increases the rate of success for having a completed book versus jumping in and hoping for the best. And what's great about a writing plan is you have something to come back to, especially, and I see this every day in my work, later in the book when maybe you're not as fired up and you don't have that level of motivation, you're not as excited anymore, and you don't really remember what was so awesome about chapter 10. This is where the writing plan comes in, because then you go back and say, oh yeah, chapter 10, this is my vision for chapter 10. This is great. So and speaking of all of this, I will be sure and drop a link to my book blueprint guide in the show notes today, along with a coupon code to make sure that you can create that writing plan to come back to throughout your book project so you can get your book done. And finally, number 3, overcoming obstacles. Any good game plan, and I kind of alluded to this in the grit section of our show today, any good game plan includes strategies for handling obstacles. Plan for yours in advance by making a list of anything and everything that could possibly pull you away from writing your book. And then create strategies, as I was saying earlier, for handling those obstacles. And let me give you some examples here. If you know that you're going on vacation for 2 weeks in July, double up on your writing deadlines before and after. Don't lie to yourself and say, but I'm sure I could squeeze in time this time of the vacation and maybe at night after everybody goes to bed and all this. Just give yourself 2 weeks off. Realize this in advance. Be excited about it. And double up on your deadlines so you don't have to have vacation, why am I not working on my book guilt? Unless you really want to work on your book during your vacation, but you know what I mean. Plan for those obstacles in advance, be realistic, adjust your plan accordingly. Grit means fighting through to the finish line, even when it doesn't feel great. A game plan gives you the strategies so you're never alone in the fight. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And please check the show notes for a link to the book blueprint guide that I mentioned, as well as a link to my Inc. Authors group on Facebook, where I offer motivation, accountability, book writing, publishing resources, and more. Thanks for listening. Until tomorrow, happy writing.